So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 16 Pro Max. Who should and who shouldn't buy this baby in 2026? So first thing I want to talk about is the 2-year value prop, used, refurbed. This is a sweet spot for value for this phone right now, because now you can find them on secondhand and refurbished places for $700 or so. Don't fall for these $1,200 price tags on the new ones. Those are definitely, you could just get a brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max. But there's a lot on offer here now that you can get these refurbed and secondhand. And the phone here still actually has some benefits over some current iPhones. But one of the things people have talked about is that the iOS 26 has put a hit on their battery. Now, I have noticed that initially, but after it adapts to your usage, it is fine. And also in some previous dot releases, it actually has gotten better. So it's not a horrible issue, to say the least. So I don't really think that's a big concern for me when recommending the iPhone 16 Pro Max in 2026. Who shouldn't buy this iPhone is somebody who is looking for the best thermal efficiency. The iPhone 17 Pro Max, you can see over here on the right, that thermal efficiency is extremely noticeable. This one definitely gets warmer, and titanium doesn't really disperse heat as well as aluminum. And it's definitely felt. You can feel some warmth in this phone, a little bit more than you'll find in the newer phones. It's nowhere near like an unusable or uncomfortable experience, but if you care a lot about thermal efficiency, it definitely is something that matters, and you definitely shouldn't buy the 16 Pro Max if that's something that really matters to you. But you should buy it if you really desire a more premium build, because the iPhone 16 Pro Max houses titanium on the frame, which is a more premium feel. I mean, when you hold this phone, it has a heft to it. It has a premium material to it. The gold here, the desert titanium here, comparatively to the 17 Pro Max, it actually feels like a more luxurious phone to hold and use daily. So I do got to say that if you care a lot about a premium feel, you should be in the camp of somebody who should still consider the iPhone 17 or the 16 Pro Max. And the 16 Pro Max actually still has a lot of the same design traits as the 17 Pro Max, including like USB-C, the camera control, the overall look on the sides, kind of the same action button over there. It doesn't have that thing on the top, that antenna right there, but you can see right here, a lot cleaner looking right there. On the right side, you'll see camera control, similar power button. So you do kind of get a lot of the similarities, but you don't get that camera plateau. And if you care a lot about cosmic orange, you might not want this one, but generally you should buy it for that overall build premium feel, because you're going to pay a lot less getting this now secondhand or refurbed, and it really does offer up a phone that feels like $1 million in the hand. So I definitely do got to recommend it for that type of person right there. So I've had this phone for 1.5 years, going on 2 years already with the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and the battery health is actually pretty decent because I was able to upgrade to the 17 Pro Max, so I didn't drain it too much. But I only had about 101 cycles on this one, as I did swap over to the iPhone 16 Pro mid-year, as I wanted to go to the smaller size format. But the iPhone 16 Pro Max, when you're picking one of these up, do make sure you don't have well over like 250 plus cycles. You're in the 80s or the 90s or low 90s. You want to be at least above like 95% on capacity if you want it to last quite a bit of time. That's the only con about buying one of these now. If you're not getting it brand new, which most people won't at this time, you might have to eventually replace the battery 2-3 years down the line. So that is something to keep in mind with going with a secondhand phone. But the battery life itself has actually been pretty phenomenal. It's not iPhone 17 Pro Max phenomenal, but it is a lot better than smaller iPhones. It even is better than like the iPhone 17 base, better than the Air, about like the iPhone 17 Pro. It's about like the smaller 17 Pro, which is also a really good battery life phone. And that includes doing things like social media, using games, text messaging, pretty much all of it. It all tends to work pretty well in the daily, whether you're reading news, you're watching videos, it doesn't really matter. You are going to get through most of the day and then some. I call the iPhone 17 Pro Max about a 2-day phone. This one's about a day and a quarter to a day and a half for most users. So it is still a really good experience, and one that you should buy if you're okay with saving money and getting maybe like half a day less battery life, but still more than a day. It's worth it. You shouldn't buy this if you crave the absolute top battery life you can get. In that case, you should probably just save up a little and get the 17 Pro Max, or just wait out for the 18 Pro Max and see what that offers. That's who shouldn't buy it. But you should if you're okay with a full day of heavy use and a little bit more, but you don't really need like 2 days. Then this is still a really big recommend. So when it comes to the size, the weight, and ergonomics, you still feel the heft. This is a big phone. Most people do get used to it. They forget about it after a while and they just enjoy the large screen for media consumption. Some people will always just feel that it's a big phone. Some people just tend to notice that this phone just always feels like a really big phone, and you notice it a lot in your pockets when you're trying to put it in little cubbies inside of your car and it doesn't fit in certain cars and stuff like that. You just notice the size of this phone, and that's why they have something like the 16 Pro, which is a much more comfortable size, the iPhone 17 Pro as well. But the design, it looks like it'll last a really long time. However, one trait that's probably going to look a little bit dated this year, as they do switch over to maybe a punch hole we're seeing in the rumors, or a shrunken dynamic island, is a dynamic island. Pretty much every iPhone prior to the 18 Pro Max are about to change this look again. Will look like a little bit like last generation, but that doesn't mean it's gonna look old, because you still find a lot of people using phones with notches on board, including the brand new 17E. So this right here, this gonna change this year, but still looks relatively modern overall. Very thin and beautiful bezels, and the titanium look just looks proper. A lot of people are going to think that, this phone actually looks like more like a top tier phone than even maybe the 17 Pro Max, just because of that titanium build. So who should buy it in terms of design and looks? People who like the previous gen before the iPhone 17 Pro Max and want the peak version of that. You want the best of the best. Think about it like a car that was introduced and they kept refining on the design, and they got to the final year before the facelift. That would be the 17 Pro Max. This phone was the best version of this type of design, the very top and most polished look. And man, does this thing look pretty. It still does to this day. Let me know if you agree with that down below. But who shouldn't buy this is somebody who, again, doesn't really love the edges of this phone. You maybe want a smoother edge. The aluminum feels smoother in the hand. It's smoother on the edges. And generally, this phone does have a heft to it that some people might not prefer over the newer aluminum chassis they switch back to on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So that's who shouldn't buy it and who should when it comes to the area of design. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max in 2026, who should and shouldn't buy it in terms of camera control? We do have this feature right here in the camera itself. I think if you're okay with an extremely good single or the main system and a relatively strong zoom system as well, 25x zoom and very sharp details, you'll be very happy. If you're okay with not having the latest and greatest, but you still want a really good social media camera, a really good personal camera for your daily usage, this thing is still at a pro level. But if the person who shouldn't buy it is the person who wants that ultra wide, front facing camera. So if you want an ultra wide on the front camera, this is definitely going to be one for you guys to go ahead and not consider if you want that ultra wide, because the front camera is still kind of like the previous iPhones. It's still really strong, but it doesn't go quite as wide. So I would say iPhone 16 Pro Max, get it if you really like a really good rear system and you're okay with not having all the latest features from the 17 Pro Max. But don't get it if you are mostly a selfie taker. I would probably just spring for one of the 17 models. All of those in that series do have that more ultra wide camera on board. When we compare this to the iPhone 17 Pro Max, I do believe that the 16 Pro Max is more than enough for most people. I do think that the 17 Pro Max is a splurge. You can see it here with the cosmic orange. They kind of have the same overall size, and what they do for you in the real world is about the same. It just comes down to where your budget's at, and do you really need the top features? If you do, and you're like into the latest and greatest, then you might want to wait a bit. But I do think we're hitting a point where 16 Pro Max and 16 Pros, especially as the months go on, are starting to become a really great value if you can find a great condition secondhand or refurbished, or like new, or maybe in the Apple refurb store. Really great options, because these iPhones right here represent the peak of this kind of like style, and they don't really have many differences between the 17 Pro Max. So you're getting a nearly like same as modern iPhone, but with way less price tag, which is very important, I feel like, in the current economy. So I definitely recommend getting the iPhone 16 Pro Max if you're somebody who doesn't necessarily care that your phone is like the one that just came out. But you shouldn't get it if you're that person who has your eyes on the 18 Pro Max, who maybe you're saving up for the 17 Pro Max and you're on the fence. If you are already saving up for the 17 Pro Max, that should tell you everything you need to know right there. You want the 17 Pro Max. So I would just go ahead and save up and finish your savings and get that 17 Pro Max if that's what you were planning to do anyway. But if you're like, nah, you know what, I don't need it, I'm just going to save some cash, go on vacation, whatever, and just get the 16 Pro Max, I think you're going to be pretty happy overall. It doesn't really have a lot of cons, honestly. So the iPhone 16 Pro Max also supports Apple Intelligence. One of the things with this phone, though, is that it does only have 8 gigabytes of RAM. So it does concern me in the long haul if that 8 gigs of RAM will hold up to Apple's incoming AI features, which you know they're going to push, you know they're going to improve, and that RAM requirement might need to be higher as the phones get more powerful down the line. So I'm thinking like 5 years, 3 to 5 years, this phone might slow down and not feel quite as good as something like a 12 gig of RAM 17 Pro series, or even, you know, the upcoming iPhones that may eventually go to 16 gigs of RAM. The A18 Pro I'm not worried about. You see the A18 absolutely rocking the world with the MacBook Neo. This is the Pro version, which is even better than that chip. And this is not a bin chip either. So we know that this thing is extremely capable. Not concerned about that. Just a little bit concerned about the RAM long haul. So if you're in the AI and Apple Intelligence and you're looking into seeing where they're about to go with this and you want your phone to be supported for a long time, I would probably not recommend this one. While it will support them and it'll be fine for a couple of years, I think if you're going long-term investment, like I need this phone to last 5 to 7 years, and I'm going to be heavily invested into the AI experiences, then I would go just recommend you go up to a 17 model or wait it out until the 18 Pro series, which is probably going to be the best AI phone ever for iPhone. Now, if you consider AI a gimmick and you're like, I'm just tired of these features, bro, just stop talking my ear off about this, then yeah, 16 Pro Max is definitely a recommend. Another great benefit of getting the iPhone 16 Pro Max now is you still have the same essential display as the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Except for the 17 Pro Max has anti-reflective better properties than this one. That could be a big deal to you. And there's one missing feature here. There's no PWM feature on the iPhone 16 Pro Max within the settings. So they do have a PWM feature on the 17 Pro Max. So if you are sensitive to pulse width modulation or flickering, you might actually get kind of some eye strain with this phone. But I haven't noticed it to be a big issue. Not quite like some other phones I've tried out there. I'm talking to you, S20s, Ultra phones. Some of those phones can cause some eye strain for some users. This one hasn't really given me much of an issue with True Tone on and Night Shift. But generally, I gotta say that if display matters to you, you're gonna be just as happy buying this phone as the newest iPhone 17 Pro Max. If you don't like punch hole displays, like the little cutout like on Android, you might not love what we might see on the 18 Pro Max. Or if you wanted a shrunken dynamic island, you might not like that either. You're just going to have to live with the dynamic island here. I just think you're getting an awesome display for the money here now that it's becoming secondhand or refurbed. But here's the deal. Who shouldn't buy this is somebody who's looking for better anti-reflective properties on the display. People are more sensitive to PWM. That's improving. Apple's taking note of that and they put it in their new 17s. I would expect them to improve a bit more on the future, a few months, like 5 months down the line here when 18 Pro Max comes out. So, but if that's not a big deal to you and you just want super thin bezels, you want super sharp display, very bright outdoors, doesn't really auto dim itself too much, and you want basically the same experience for $100 less, hundreds of dollars less, 16 Pro Max all day. You should definitely buy it. So let's wrap it up here. Who should and shouldn't buy 16 Pro Max? We went deep into this phone, dived very deep into the details. Anyone who wants a lot of the features from the newer phones but don't want to pay the price and still want more of a luxurious feeling metal on their phone. You do have yourself action button, camera control, triple camera, 48 megapixel on there. We also do have our size titanium, cleaner edges here, I would say, than the 17 Pro Max with their no 5G antenna on there. Generally a more luxurious looking desert titanium, but for some people, they just like the pop of the cosmic orange. They like just like, that's the newest iPhone. Not a lot of people could tell this is the 16 Pro Max. So you shouldn't buy this phone if you're looking for really great ultra wide front facing camera, anti-reflective displays. You're looking for a phone that really stands out. They're kind of bringing back like more vibrant colors, and I think we're going to see it on the 18 Pro Max, like a deep red or maybe a purple brown. We'll see what happens. It's going to be another standout color, I think, on the Pro Max series. And you shouldn't buy this if you do a lot of games, because you should just pay a little bit more, get a 17 Pro Max because it has better thermals. Not that this can't game, it games very well, but it's going to throttle more, and this is going to stay cooler under that heavier use case than this phone right here. But you should buy this if you want a pro camera for less, you want a pro experience for less. You are absolutely winning right here with this one. So that's 16 Pro Max, who should and shouldn't buy here in 2026. If you want to see more content like this, or we talk about a couple year-old phones, 3-year-old phones, and we talk about who should and shouldn't get these now, let me know down below in the comments. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns about this iPhone or any other related iPhone that you might be thinking about buying at this current time, drop that down below in the comments. The community will chit chat with you. I will also try to get back as many comments as possible. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.